Hello, everyone, and welcome to the show. We'll go ahead and get started. We start today by going over the latest petty Trump Truth Social post. Earlier today at 1:36 in the morning, Donald Trump posted the following on Truth Social. He said, and I quote, "Time magazine wrote a relatively good story about me, but the picture may be the worst of all time. They, quote unquote, disappeared my hair, and then had something floating on top of my head that looked like a floating crown, but an extremely small one. Really weird. I never liked taking pictures from underneath angles, but this is a super bad picture and deserves to be called out. What are they doing and why?" This is the picture that Donald Trump is referring to and talking about. A few thoughts on this. One, this is the President of the United States of America at 1:36 in the morning complaining about what his picture looks like on the cover of a magazine. This is the person that is in charge of the nuclear codes, the person that's in charge of the military, and a host of other responsibilities that are way more important than what he looks like on a cover magazine. I worry about a president that is talking and concerning himself about his picture at 1:36 in the morning, because that means that he's not paying attention to something else that's more important. Secondly, Donald Trump and MAGA in general, they fancy themselves as alpha males. Guys who are strong, who are, have thick skin, are able to take insults and they give insults. That's how they fancy themselves. When Trump is talking about his picture and worrying about how he looks, is that alpha male behavior? Worrying about how you look in a picture? It doesn't seem like. So there's a contradiction there. So those are just some of the two things I wanted to point out in Donald Trump's latest Truth Social post. It's petty and it's unbecoming of a president. Next topic. The White House is creating a fake enemy where there isn't one. I'm of course talking about Antifa and MAGA calling it a terrorist organization. The White House has a YouTube channel, and 4 days ago they posted the following video about Antifa.
Beats journalists. Antifa attacks our police stations. They attack our courthouses. They dox our law enforcement officers. No more. They are a terrorist group, and we are coming after them.
We are here at the White House today to unmask Antifa, to follow the money all the way to the top. If you want to get to the bottom of who is fomenting this chaos and violence in our country, you must follow the money.
I was a mainstream reporter in Seattle for 10 years before I quit mainstream media, in part due to its refusal to acknowledge the dangers of Antifa and radical left-wing violence.
Part of the problem that we have is that a lot of people refuse to believe that Antifa is real. It is just a made-up thing, but I have seen them. They are real, they are dangerous, and they are violent.
They are an organized, systemic, international criminal enterprise. And what the FBI is going to do is trace the money, follow the funds, and find every single person that was involved in funding the riots and the violent acts of criminality that they are perpetrating on our street.
I've watched Antifa brutally beat, harass, and threaten Americans in the street, but all of that ends with the Trump administration.
I was brutally attacked and almost killed by Antifa in the streets of Seattle. All of my colleagues have been attacked. I can't think of a single one who hasn't. Violence against journalists and police officers in our streets can't stand.
Just days ago, I was in the Portland jailhouse, and now I'm in the White House. This administration is built different, and Antifa's days are numbered.
And I want to thank President Donald Trump for designating Antifa a terrorist organization, and I'm looking forward to the FBI and the DOJ hunting down these people like the terrorists that they are.
All I gotta say, it's a bad day to be Antifa.
And Antifa's days of using violence and intimidation against their political opposition are over.
And I've continued to report on them over the years, despite the threats of violence and actual violence that's happened, because I owe a thank you to this country, the United States, for settling my parents who were victims of communism in Vietnam.
1 month ago, Charlie Kirk was murdered by a violent leftist. We all saw it, and we all saw thousands of leftists celebrate it. Antifa symbols were found on the bullet casings of the gun used to shoot and kill my friend.
We won't take it anymore. President Trump is not going to stand for it. And I'm so grateful that we have a leader in the White House that understands how we need to fight these sophisticated networks and how we need to take these terrorists out.
I've been attacked by Antifa, doxxed by Antifa, harassed by Antifa, but we're not standing down. We're now coming for you.
Okay, the White House is straight up lying, as they usually do. They're making up the following lie that Antifa is a terrorist organization that has a centralized command structure and they're causing havoc and death all through the United States. They are making Antifa be at the same level as a terrorist organization such as Hamas or Al-Qaeda. And this is something that I've seen the Trump regime do on a constant basis. This is the pattern. They see an organization or a group of people that they don't like. They recharacterize them as some sort of enemy, and they then use that as an excuse to go after their political enemies. When one of the few things we heard in this video was follow the money, quote unquote. What they're going to do is they're going to look for Democratic leaning organizations or groups or people. They're going to recharacterize them and they're going to go after them to silence them, even though most Democrats are in no way terrorists in any way, and there is no such thing as a centralized command structure that is the Antifa terrorist organization. Along the same lines, with our next topic, we have JD Vance talking about the Insurrection Act, and it looks like the Trump regime is getting ready to use the Insurrection Act eventually. Let's listen to JD Vance.
Of course, there's a major legal battle underway about the administration's deployment of the National Guard. It does come as NBC News is reporting that the administration has been seriously discussing invoking the Insurrection Act. That would give the president the power to direct federal troops to conduct law enforcement functions in the case of a national emergency. Is that the case? Are you seriously considering invoking the Insurrection Act?
Well, the president's looking at all of his options. Right now, he hasn't felt he needed to, but we have to remember, why are we talking about this, Kristen? Because crime has gotten out of control in our cities, because our ICE agents, the people who are enforcing our immigration laws, have faced a 1,000% increase in violent attacks against them. We have people right now who are going out there, who are doing the job the president asked them to do, who are enforcing our immigration laws. They're being assaulted, they're being beaten, they're being shot at. The problem here is not the Insurrection Act or whether we actually invoke it or not. The problem is the fact that the entire media in this country, cheered on by a few far-left lunatics, have made it okay to tee off on American law enforcement. We cannot accept that in the United States of America. We want everybody, black or white, rich or poor, to be safe in the United States of America. But to do that, we have to empower our law enforcement agents to keep us safe. That's what we're talking about doing.
Couple of points here. First of all, an Illinois judge said that state and local authorities have been able to handle protest activity, that ICE, that other federal agencies have been able to continue to do their work. Crime is down in both Chicago and Portland, but is there a rebellion here? That's what would trigger an Insurrection Act. Is it imminent?
Kristen, crime is down in Chicago and Portland often because they're so overwhelmed at the local level, they're not even keeping the statistics properly. Just a couple of weeks ago, we had an ICE office get shot at by a far-left assassin who was trying to kill our law enforcement officers. He fortunately didn't kill law enforcement officers. He did kill some other innocent people in the process. We cannot allow the far left in this country to tee off on our law enforcement officers. We've got to do something about it, and that's all the president's talking about. I mean, there are places in Chicago, Kristen, where people are afraid to take their children. They're afraid to go out of their houses for fear of gun violence, for fear of gang drive-by shootings. That's not okay in the United States of America. The president just wants people to be kept safe, and we're exploring everything that we can do to make sure that the American people are safe in their own country.
We thank you.
JD Vance is doing what I just described. He's recharacterizing what's currently occurring, which is protest against ICE nationwide, and he's rebranding those as an insurrection so that it will give the Trump regime an excuse to deploy troops so that Donald Trump can consolidate more power. That is what's going on. It's happening right in front of our faces. And a lot of people aren't seeing it right now. They're not seeing the pattern. And I'll say what the pattern is. They will look at their political enemies, they'll rename them something else, and that gives them an excuse to do some extreme right-wing things such as deploying of troops, fascistic kind of things. We're seeing it, it's happening right in front of our eyes, and we need to call it out, which is exactly what I'm doing here. With that being said, that's our episode for today, and I will see everyone tomorrow.